Unlike Peach Girl, Dear Brother is a bit toned down, and the goofy animations with the fast pacing at the beginning makes it my favorite soap opera dumpster fire anime so far. Unlike Nana, there's a little bit more lesbianism going on in here, and it's intense. Now, half of you, or most of you, probably don't even know what Dear Brother is. According to Wikipedia, Dear Brother, or Onisama A, is a Japanese series by Riko Ikeda. It was adapted into an anime series that aired from July 14th, 1991 to May 31st, 1992. The series originally started out as a manga in the early to mid 1970s. The story is about a 16-year-old Nanako Misono who attends a prestigious academy and shares her high school journey through writing letters to her brother. The manga has never been officially released in English, though it has been translated into French, Italian, and Polish. The series spans 39 anime episodes and 3 manga volumes, ending when Nanako is 19. Or 18, sorry. Now, go grab your popcorn or get started on your chores or on your artwork as I take us down this dramatic journey, very similar to Peach Girl. So, the show starts off with a flashback. We see a little girl playing out in the rain, and a boy is looking over the bushes and comes across a little girl. And there's this really, it's such a goofy animation. It just started, and I was laughing because of how silly it was. But the little girl is repeatedly asking the boy, Who are you? And the boy just does this really goofy animation of him running away. Here it is. After that flashback, we follow Nanako as she's getting ready for her first day of high school. And it seems as if she's really well off. Her house looks really big, and the school that she's supposedly going to seems prestigious as well. The setting for this is really cool because it seems as if Western school or teaching styles are slowly coming into Japan. Throughout the show, she has an internal monologue where she's addressing it to Dear Brother. Now, whether this brother is real or not at this point, we don't know. The show just started, so we'll figure that out. So she leaves home. She's traveling by bus to get to school, and the bus is cramped. There's a lot of people there. It's tight. And she comes across a person, a tall person, maybe a guy, reading a book in the crowded bus. Kind of weird, but hey, not judging. I used to read in the bus, but not in a crowded bus, but he can do whatever he wants. Nanako is entranced by this guy. He's got this angelic aura. Oh my gosh, she's just glaring at him. When her stop comes to get off and go to school, she's having a hard time getting off because it's so crowded. She's trying to crawl through the little small spaces and she's having a hard time getting off when yoink, this angelic guy person yanks her off the bus and sweeps her off her feet. it's it's such a goofy animation too. We are only 7 minutes in and the animation has me hooked. I actually enjoy these goofy animated scenes. They just make it much more enjoyable to watch Dear Brother. So I think that's the gimmick for this anime. You really got to be into the really goofy animation. Also, I should correct myself because although this particular character looks and is drawn kind of more like a guy, or the way the guys in the show are, they are not a guy. They are a gal. So I will correct myself and start calling him a she because my first impressions was this tall dude, but no. Nanako and her best friend Tomoko meet up in school and realize that they are in different classes. And as the two of them head out in their separate ways, a dark-haired girl kind of just starts hounding Nanako because they're in the same class and she is too excited to get to meet another person that's in her class, I guess. This character is Shinobu Mariko, and Mariko really badly wants to be friends with Nanako. She is a little too excited, and it's kind of sus because it's like, why are you clinging on to Nanako? Are you gonna be like Sai, who turns into a bully? Like, what's your obsession? Well, I just want to clarify very early on, but Mariko's kind of just weird. Mariko's just a clingy little bitch. That's it. Okay, she's just clings on to Nanako. Around this time, as the girls are making their way to the hall, another angelic character gets introduced, who I also thought was a guy, but that doesn't make sense because I slowly started realizing that, oh my gosh, this is an all girls school. But this character is Kaoru, and all the fangirls around the school start yelling and kind of getting all crazy, like, "Oh no! Oh my gosh! It's Kaoru no Kimi," which translates to Prince Kaoru, but they all call her Kaoru no Kimi, and she is repeating a year or two because of health reasons, so she was held back. If you look closely enough, you'll notice that among those fangirls, I'm also in that crowd saying, "Oh my god, Kaoru no Kimi," because Kaoru is my favorite character in this entire anime, okay? She's such an amazing character because she always fights off the bully, she always defends people. She's that bitch. Okay, she's just that fucking awesome. Once all the freshmen start getting settled, they start learning more about their classes, a group of seniors come to talk about their sorority house club thing that they have going on in this prestigious school, okay? And they make a huge deal about it. They really are trying to establish the sorority or being selected to be in a sorority as a great privilege. You're going to live a lavish life. And honestly, it's like socialite stuff, if I'm being honest. Shinobu, Mariko, kind of just makes a huge deal about it to Nanako. Nanako kind of didn't even know what a sorority was prior to this. They're trying to, at this point in the anime, it's, there's like a short explanation that the school is trying to mimic what's happening in America. So they're trying to bring that part of American culture down here in Japan and do a whole sorority thing. I don't think they should have. And I think Karu also is like, this isn't a good thing. Karu is very anti sorority, and even though right now they can't petition to abolish it, eventually they will. So just keep in mind, Kaoru is a sorority hater. From this scene, it cuts to, and this happens a lot when you watch this anime, it'll just randomly cut off to a new scene. Fade and new scene. It'll happen a lot. So if I'm abruptly jumping from scene to scene, that's just how this anime is, okay? But we cut to a scene where a blondie that we've seen before is playing the piano, and all the girls run and crowd this person because they're like, oh my god, Saint Just I'm just gonna pronounce it the way the girls were pronouncing it. They all pronounce it as Saint Just. I don't think that's how you pronounce it. It's a French word. It's based off this actual person. Uh you can read and search him up on your own. All that matters to us is that this guy was referred to as the Angel of Terror, but in this anime, it's called Angel of Death. Mistranslation problem? I'm not quite sure. If you are French, let me know. Nanako immediately recognizes this angelic aura. It's the person from the bus. And I don't know, she gets a little shy. She gets a little like, wow, this is the person that swept me off my feet. And figures out that her name is Asaka Rei, the resident emo hopeless romantic. Nanako later runs into Rei, but Rei doesn't recognize Nanako at all, which kind of hurts and stings Nanako a bit, but it's okay. Also, there's that goofy basketball scene that I felt like I really needed to share with you all. It's just so funny. There's a lot of scenes like that that I'll be sharing with you all. But Kaoru and Nanako make eye contact, and it's so intense, and even the music gets super intense around this time. And at this point, right here, is around the time when I started realizing and asking myself, "Oh my god, is this a girl love anime?" Because I was not expecting that. Am I watching a queer little love story? Kinda, yes, maybe. Another girl gets introduced in this first episode called Misaki. Misaki is important because she's going to be the main bully for the first half of this anime, which sucks. So memorize this name and this face. Misaki. She's from a hotshot family. Her father is somewhat of a corrupt lawyer or something like that. She uses her father's law firm to kind of like extract information and dirt on everybody, and she spreads rumors and gossip about people as much as she can. She's just a hater, okay? She's a hater. Her friends are really weird too. They're always flexing to others about Misaki, which is weird. But yeah, that's her little posse. They're always bragging about her, always kind of boosting her up, and they're always talking about her hair, her wealth, her academic. It's just weird how much ass kissing they do. They should definitely get paid for that because it's like a full-time job for them. Nanako and Tomoko are hanging out, and Nanako starts daydreaming about Rei. Looking back, this is probably the beginning of when Nanako starts forming feelings for Rei, or starts kind of crushing on Rei. And then here's towards the end of the anime, um, the resident emo just menacingly popping pills. Not even popping, she's just chewing on them. It's so weird. So, by episode 2, we figure out that actually the person that Nanako has been referencing to or addressing her letters to is an actual person. So, it's not just her diary entries like I thought it was. There actually is a guy, there actually is a brother. He isn't really her real brother, but someone that Nanako had approached to ask to become her older brother figure. He used to be her substitute teacher, Henmi Takehiko. He accepts her request and they become pen pals. I know that I probably shouldn't spoil this, but I think you already know this. I know this. This is an old soap opera. This is how things usually go, but this guy actually is her actual brother. From another mother. She just doesn't have the slightest clue about her father's little secrets. So, yeah. Also, her father is not her biological father. It's an adoptive father. So, there's that piece of information. Moving on, at school, Tomoko and Nanako are happily making baking plans when Shinobu glares at them. Filled with jealousy, she barges in between the two, inserting herself in the middle, stealing Nanako away from Tomoko. Mariko has beef with Misaki since she used to go to her old junior high school and she was a shit stain there too. So the real drama begins when the sorority candidate selection process begins. The character Fukiko, she's important as well, lock her in. Fukiko is the head of the sorority club, and the first pick is Mariko. The second is Kaoru, who declines because fuck the sorority, right? And the third person that gets picked is our protagonist, Nanako, which shocks Misaki because Misaki was kind of going around school making it seem as if it was a done deal that they were getting picked. For sure, for sure. This pisses her off. She's just so enraged that she actually starts almost immediately causing a scene to the point where Kaoru has to step in and put a stop to the hate. The baking plans that Tomoko and Nanako made have to come to a halt because on that Saturday or Sunday I think it was Saturday that the interview was going to happen was also when they were going to plan to bake. So, Nanako kind of wants to go to the interview, right? So their plans have to come to a halt. But it's not like Nanako has officially been selected. This is just the candidates. Okay, they have to do the interview in order for the club members to even consider admitting one of the girls. Episode 3 pissed me off a lot because Nanako starts getting bullied from here. Okay, she's basically getting attacked and threatened to withdraw from the sorority candidate selection. And Misaki extracts some information about her father not being her biological father, and she takes that information and pins it at the bulletin board in school for everybody to read, kind of airing out her business as much as she can. And some girls in school just don't like that Nanako got selected because she's from a middle class family and she has an adoptive father and some other bullcrap, right? It's bullshit, it's classist, it's a bunch of other garbage. This hits Nanako pretty hard. She can't understand why anybody would spread this kind of hate. And she just doesn't understand why people are so fucking salty. And I'm like, same girl, like this is some loser ass mentality. Take your fucking L and just leave. You didn't make it to the fucking, selection process. That's it. The end. Don't be a salty little bitch. And unfortunately, that's all these girls are. A bunch of salty, sour losers, okay? They're all just making a big deal out of nothing. The taunting is a little too much for Nanako, and she kind of runs off, yelling Tomoko's name while ignoring Shinobu, and she runs into Rei instead. The scene where she's running away from Mariko is supposed to be really emotional, but I just couldn't stop laughing at how ridiculous it was. This is one of those soap operas where bad shit is happening just like in Peach Girl, but for some reason, it's just so funny. I love it. I really hope it never gets reanimated because it's so funny. But anyway, after Nanako runs into Rei, Rei just lays there, letting Nanako cry on her and only asks her to pick up her pills for her. Like I said, Rei is a pill popper, right? So yeah, she grabs her pills and dramatically walks off. Right after that interaction, as Rei is walking away, Nanako describes Rei as having a smell of a man, and I was like, "What does a man even smell like?" I remember asking my partner, I was like, "Hey, this anime said this other character smells like a man. What do you smell like, my guy?" Silly little thing that I feel like gets answered a lot later in the anime. So keep that locked in. It cuts to an indoor swimming pool scene where Tomoko is scolding and snapping at Nanako for wanting to give up without putting up a fight. And after scolding her, she comforts her and encourages her to just stay. Stay in the sorority, don't back down, because you're giving the haters what they want. Tomoko's little angry rant pays off because Nanako decides that yes, she won't back down and she will go to the interview. Well, they call the interview the selection party. There's a party, but there's also like the main thing is the interview, but so that's why I keep saying interview. But later at night, Misaki calls over at Nanako's residence, and this is landline times, right? No cell phones. So, not Misaki, Nanako's mom picks up the phone, and Misaki disguises herself. She doesn't even disguise. She just tells Nanako's mom that she's Fukiko, head of the sorority club, and that she's calling to inform Nanako that the interview time has been switched from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., which is a lie. It has not been postponed. Misaki's just making bullshit to sabotage Nanako. And this information causes Nanako to come super late to the interview the next day. Mariko is frantically begging um, Fukiko to wait for Nanako, and that something must have come up. That's why she's late. There's no other reason for it. And so, Shinobu's freaking out. She's calling her mom. She's trying to look for her. They have no idea where she is. And her mom lets um Shinobu know that, oh, Nanako left the house a while ago. So where the heck is she? Well, Nanako is actually having lunch with Tomoko. They're just hanging out because she's like, oh, I got all the time in the world. 3 p.m. Sure. So she is finally walking up to school at the time that she thought the interviews and the party starts, and Mariko is just running up to her frantically, grabs her hand, and drags her to the interview because she's like, girl, you're fucking late, hurry up. And well, Nanako is not only late, she's slowly processing that, hey, it was never at 3 p.m. It never got postponed to 3 p.m. It was always at 12 p.m. And at the interview, she fucking bombs it, dude. She is panicking. She's too worried about how the senior members of the sorority would think of her. She is just being judged for her hobbies, for the kind of books that she reads. A lot of the members think that her choice in authors is too childish. And so she lies and says, I also read insert author that she thought was more mature. But one of the members then asks her to name her favorite book from this author, which she struggles with because she doesn't actually read this person. So, yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. Nanako is convinced that she's not going to make it, and she meets up with Tomoko later, and the two bond, and she tries to free herself from the thought of being in the sorority, and is also happy with the idea that she might not get selected because she was getting bullied for it. And maybe now her high school can go back to being fun, because she was not enjoying that whole bullying thing, right? So she's made peace with the fact that she's not going to get selected. The next day, the results are in. Well, not the next day, I think on Monday, because the next day would have been Sunday. So on Monday, the results are in. And surprisingly, Nanako does make it. So does Mariko. The results do make Tomoko sad, and she feels as if Nanako might change. And the two make plans to talk about it afterwards in school. Like, after school's over, they're gonna talk about it to try and figure out what's going on. Is Nanako going to change? Is she going to still join? Because they were planning on joining the cooking club. But since Nanako has made it in to this dumb sorority, all the sorority members, they're all in flower arrangement club. So does this mean that Nanako is not joining cooking club anymore? So it's going to create more distance between Nanako and Tomoko. So that's why they're planning to talk about it after school. Back to Nanako. The bullying gets intense. During class, while it's Nanako's turn to stand up and read in class, the passage, right? It's probably English class. All the girls around her, Misaki starts it. Misaki and her posse started, but soon all the other girls in class start doing this. They all start chanting that they can't hear, or we can't hear you, to Nanako while she's reading. And even the teacher has no idea how to calm the girls down because they're not listening to him. The chanting annoys the fuck out of Kaoru, who stands up and yells at everybody to shut up. And then she walks over to Misaki and her posse, drags them out. Kaoru is so fucking cool, dude. And I'm not the only one who thinks this, so does Mariko. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I legit thought Mariko and Kaoru would be a thing. I just want to get it out of your sight, out of your mind, because I don't want false hopes to get out there, you know? During the home economics class, Misaki starts shit all over again, right? This time, she accuses Nanako's mom of being a homewrecker who rips apart a family, announcing to everyone how Nanako's adoptive father had abandoned his wife and child for Nanako's mother. Mariko is not taking any of this slander and dumps her flower on Misaki. There might be some truth to what Misaki is saying. Well, yeah, you guys already know. I already spoiled to you guys that Henmi is Nanako's brother. Hearing that freaks Nanako out, and she runs away from class crying and sobbing, and Kaoru follows after her, trying to comfort her. But Nanako just won't listen and just keeps running away. Where does she run off to? Who fucking knows? Because now we cut off to the scene after school. Classes are over. Tomoko and Nanako are supposed to meet up. But Mariko tells Nanako that Tomoko is in the music room, which she is not. Mariko then shows up to where Tomoko is waiting for Nanako and basically lies to Tomoko that Nanako wants nothing to do with Tomoko because she's now a part of the sorority and she has no need for regular schmegular friends and all this bull crap, right? Even though Tomoko thinks it's out of character for Nanako to say that, she still believes Mariko for some reason. I think it's stupid because Mariko's jealousy makes no sense. Obviously, Tomoko and Nanako are going to be close, they're childhood best friends. Also, I don't know why Nanako didn't just introduce Shinobu and Tomoko, and the three of them could have just been a trio. Yeah, just like that, Nanako's main support system or support person is distant from her, which is bullshit because Nanako tries calling Tomoko, you know, her home, calling her landline. She tries, she even goes to visit, but, you know, Tomoko has her parents lie that she's feeling sick or she's busy or yada yada yada. So she's dodging Nanako hardcore, which sucks because the bullying gets intense. Nanako also isn't sure how to approach her parents about the nasty rumor going around, and so she decides to tackle it some other time. But it's definitely killing her from the inside, right? Rei is popping pills, per usual, but this time Kaoru is there, notices it, and slaps it out of her hands, yelling at her to stop all of this. There's this unknown tension between Rei and Fukiko, and throughout the anime, we get scenes like this. I'm gonna just let you know, they're siblings. It's just kind of weird. Fukiko invites Rei to the sorority club to help with the flower arrangements, and Nanako can feel the intense interaction between the two. She also witnesses Fukiko dropping a sharp object onto Rei's hand, causing her to bleed. Fukiko clearly hates Rei, but why? This scene disturbs Nanako to the point where she finds herself slowly growing weary and scared of Fukiko herself. She also notes how Rei just takes the abuse like some sort of Fukiko simp, which she is. Nanako loses a lot of respect for Fukiko after this incident. Back to Henmi. Later in this episode, which is episode 5, it is confirmed that he is indeed Nanako's stepbrother, and she doesn't know he exists, right? Dun dun dun. Plot thickens, right? So that means that little twerp running away at the beginning of the anime was him. This time, the bullies take Nanako's gym bag. Nanako reaches out to Tamako for help, but she doesn't offer any help, which really hurts Nanako a lot because she's like, damn, what happened? We were bonding, we were friends. How did you just give up on me so easily? And she just doesn't understand because Tomoko is not willing to talk to Nanako, right? Meanwhile, some girls are starting a petition to get Nanako expelled from the school and even have the audacity of handing the petition to Nanako to sign it herself, to get herself expelled. And this is all because she got into the sorority. You guys are in school. Get that education. What are you doing? Kaoru, being the best girl in the anime, hands Nanako her gym clothes because she has to go to a checkup at the doctor's anyway. The bullying even starts from seniors, and it starts impacting Nanako's mental health immensely. She starts spiraling into depression, slowly and steadily into the void. Nanako wants to resign, but Fukiko won't even let her. That's not an option. She's just telling her to suck it up and that I'll protect you. Nobody wants your protection, girl. Just let her quit. It's not that big a deal. But I guess they can't have quitters from the sorority, right? It'll look bad or something. Now, because the bullying is happening everywhere, people are taunting and saying shit to her everywhere, Nanako tries to look for a place where she can just be alone, be in her head, some space, a chance to breathe. And she ends up going to the clock tower. And when she gets there, she finds all sorts of writing and messages written on the walls. And she starts reading them and resonating with what's written on the walls because it might have been from other people who've been bullied or cast aside in school. And as she's reading and climbing up the clock tower, she runs into Rei. Rei is at the top of the tower, smoking and throwing daggers at an outline of Fukiko. One of the daggers goes right past Nanako. The two share a moment, and Nanako learns a little bit more about Rei. Nanako is really interested in Rei now and wants to learn more about Rei's name given by the school, like the St. Juice thing, right? And so she ends up going to the library to figure out exactly who this dude was in the French Revolution. And Kaoru spots Nanako and helps her understand more about the name and Rei. One important piece of information is that the St. Juice person was guillotined at age 26. Misaki tries to taunt and bully Nanako one more time after school while Nanako is waiting for her bus at the bus stop. Tomoko happens to see this and rushes over and scares the shit out of Misaki and her posse. The two make up and become friends again. They start talking, start figuring out what went wrong. Episode 8. This episode starts off with Mariko buying materials for Nanako for sewing class and dropping by her home to surprise her with it, to only find out from her, Nanako's parents, that Nanako isn't at home and that she's gone out watching movies with Tomoko, which pisses Mariko off because she thought she had successfully separated the two. Nanako shares with Tomoko at the movies that Shinobu Mariko actually scares the crap out of her, which rightfully so because Shinobu is a little bit too clingy and possessive of Nanako. In this episode, we dive a little bit deeper with Mariko's obsession with Nanako. Like, we get to see to the extent she's obsessed with her. So Mariko invites Nanako to her birthday party that she's having and makes a promise that she will attend. It's a huge hotel reserved for only her mother, her, and Nanako. Even though Mariko scares Nanako, she baked cookies for her. Mariko is over the moon when she sees the hand-baked cookies and she loves it because she's like, oh my god, these for me, right? And they have dinner, and that's when Nanako realizes that it's only them and that Mariko hasn't invited anybody else, and that maybe that Nanako is Mariko's only friend. So Nanako starts feeling sorry for Mariko and tries to warm up to her. It's raining like crazy, and Mariko offers Nanako a ride back home. But while they're on their way home, Mariko invites Nanako over for a little bit to her house. They're like, hey, just come over for a little bit. Nanako's like, yeah, sure, why not? And so when they drop by Mariko's house, this is where the problem starts. Mariko doesn't want Nanako to leave. Like, she tries locking her in her bedroom like a crazy person. Nanako doesn't tell Tomoko about how crazy Mariko got. She just lets her know that, oh yeah, I went to the birthday party and then I went back home. So she probably did that because she didn't want Tomoko to like chew out Mariko, because she totally would do that. Mariko is really depressed and sad that Nanako is kind of ignoring her. Nanako is straight up giving her silent treatment and refuses to engage in any kind of conversation with her. Mariko is desperately trying to get Nanako to forgive her and to start talking to her again and be friends again. Later in this episode, Kaoru, this is episode 9 by the way, Kaoru ends up having a heart attack in school, and Nanako is freaking out because Nanako is the one who finds her. And she rushes to find Ray because Kaoru's like, hey, Ray might have some sort of painkillers for me. So Nanako rushes over to the drama club, I think. That's where Ray is, and tries climbing up the stairs to catch Ray's attention, but gets pushed off by a bunch of bitchy girls who are still salty about the sorority thing. But that doesn't stop her. She still calls out for Ray and asks for painkillers, letting her know that Kaoru is in a lot of pain. But Ray is in her theater kid moment, and she just isn't taking what Nanako is saying seriously at all, which pisses Nanako off, and she goes and slaps the goofy out of Ray. Once Ray snaps out of it after that power slap, she just hands the pills to Nanako and refers to Nanako as her lovely doll. If you're like, what the fuck? And if Ray confuses you, yeah, same. Ray plays around way too much, okay? I don't know how people can sit down on the ground and not move around as much as I have in one sitting. I keep moving around. I'm sorry. I just like, my legs start hurting so easily. But anyway, Nanako hands the pills to Kaoru, who takes the pills, and then the two go to the gym room and have Kaoru just lay around in one of the tables over there. Nanako refuses to leave Kaoru's side till she feels better. The two bond over the short amount of time, and eventually Kaoru convinces Nanako to go to her classes. If she wants, she can check on Kaoru after school. After classes end, Nanako is rushing to Kaoru and runs right past Mariko, refusing to stop and listen to her sob story. When Nanako arrives at the gym, she notices that Kaoru isn't there and has left for the day. So at least Kaoru was able to wake up and go home. Since Nanako hasn't still forgiven Mariko, Mariko kind of goes on a food strike. She's acting super bratty at home. She doesn't want to eat. And the only one who notices this is Kaoru at school, who, scold her to look after her body. After scolding her, she tries to comfort her and listens to Mariko's worries, right? Like I said, Kaoru is just so freaking amazing. The best part about this anime. But anyway, during PE, there's this really dramatic ass scene where Ray catches a volleyball that flies up to the balcony where she's at. She catches it and stands at the edge of the ledge, ready to jump off after seeing Fukiko. And she does jump off, but she's fine. The drama with Ray is insane, okay? This motherfucker is too fucking dramatic. So fucking goofy. But, right after that tense scene, Mariko faints due to a lack of nutrition, right? And Tomoko supports Nanako's visit to Mariko. Nanako shows up at Mariko's house and lets her mom know about Mariko fainting at school, and the two head to the hospital together. Once she's there, Mariko's mom and Kaoru leave the room to give the two girls some space. And Mariko's just being really dramatic and being like, who are you? I don't know you. Just, I don't know. Being all sassy now that she has Nanako's attention, but the two basically make up by the end of that episode. On a side note, in this episode, for a split second before Mariko's mom comes to visit her at the hospital, it is also hinted that Mariko's father is cheating on the mom. There are chances of the parents splitting up. In episode 11, Fukiko invites Rei to meet her after school at 5 p.m. um at the under the elm tree in school. But there's always a but she ditches her because she's actually what do you call it, tutoring all of the freshmen and sophomores in the sorority club for the upcoming exams. So she never had any intentions of actually meeting Ray after school. She just kind of wanted her to suffer. The worst part is it's pouring rain. It's insane. It's heavy rain. While at Fukiko's place, Nanako forgets her French notebook at school, and so she decides to go back to school. She doesn't really want to trouble Fukiko with Fukiko getting a driver and whatnot for her. She's like, no, I'm fine. I can go on foot. She takes an umbrella and runs off to school, grabs her notebook, and as she's returning, she notices Ray just under the elm tree dripping in water. And she's like, okay, she's not like, what the fuck? Burning hot. She's got a fever. She's got to get her back to her apartment or wherever she's living. And so Nanako, gets a cab for them. And they're in the taxi when this motherfucker starts getting really dramatic. And Ray literally tries jumping out of a moving taxi. The taxi driver's not having any of this drama, is like, get the fuck out. Both of you get the fuck out. Like, I am not driving you to your destination anymore. This drama is enough for me. Bye. Peace out. And so now they're walking in rain. Nanako keeps insisting Ray to go to their apartment, and Ray's like, no. Ray rushes ahead of Nanako and goes into a flower shop and buys Nanako flowers. And that's her trying to bribe Nanako into not worrying about her and telling her that she can just go home and not to worry about her. It's cute. I ship it, but Ray is being way too stubborn, right? Ray refuses to believe Nanako when she tries telling her that Fukiko had already gone home and that she was tutoring the girls in the sorority club, right? Ray is a complete emotional wreck. Tries to jump off into an ongoing train when Nanako yells out. Episode 12, we're at Ray's apartment now, and Ray shows Nanako a porcelain doll that she thinks looks very much like Nanako, who she always calls her lovely doll. Eventually, Kaoru drops by after Nanako calls her over, and Kaoru slaps the goofy out of Ray and yanks the golden bracelet off, revealing a scar. By the end of the night, Kaoru asks Nanako to forget about what she saw. At this point, I thought Ray was helplessly in love with Fukiko, but like I said, it turns out that they're siblings. So there's some weird incest-ish shit going on from time to time. I cannot understand this anime that well. The next day, Nanako preps sandwiches and salad and some other sorts of dishes for Rei, hoping that she would eat them, and she drops them at her apartment and heads off to school. Tomoko covers for Nanako since Nanako lied about where she disappeared to after heading back to school after she got her notebook, right? She was supposed to return back to Fukiko's place for tutoring and she never did. She kind of disappeared, and that scared everyone. Everyone was kind of worried about where Nanako had disappeared, so she lied that because it was raining so much, she ended up staying over at Tomoko's house, which she really didn't, but Fukiko doesn't need to know. Fukiko later does warn Nanako to not get close to Rei. Episode 13, Nanako goes to check up on Rei and notices the food is left untouched. She can't stop worrying about Rei, so she sneaks out of her house later to go visit her while Kaoru is there. Much later, we get a picnic scene with the trio finally hanging out peacefully together like they should have from episode 1, but whatever. Since it's exam week, all sorts of rumors are flying around the school, and the tale of the tragic lovers is one of them. The story goes as such. There were two girls who fell in love and committed a double suicide under the elm tree due to hardships they faced from the world. Mariko thinks the story is beautiful instead of scary, and Nanako is puzzled by why the two lovers had to die in the first place. Why couldn't they just live life and be together with each other? Why did they have to take their own life, right? This overthinking eventually makes her wonder if this story is kind of true and that if one of the lovers is Ray because she remembers seeing that scar on her wrist, right? Is it Ray? Might be, might not be. Episode 14, Rei runs to the clock tower after interacting with Fukiko in the music room, and Nanako follows after her, worried about her. Rei ends up taking too many drugs all at once and starts mistaking Nanako for Fukiko, entering a crazed trance, attempting to stab Nanako multiple times before snapping back to her senses. She kind of breaks down, yelling and crying when she realizes that she almost hurt Nanako. The two hold each other and sob for a while because that whole thing was just a little too intense for them. Kaoru tutors Mariko and she starts fangirling. There's like cute moments between Kaoru and Shinobu, getting my hopes up. Nanako makes cheesecake for Rei and starts visiting her more frequently. She tries tossing away Rei's drugs one day, and Rei freaks the fuck out, calling her a useless, meddlesome nuisance. The addiction with the shit stain is a little too strong, okay? The interaction rips Nanako's heart apart, and she leaves Rei's apartment, slowly making her way to the ocean to watch the sunset. Rei shortly follows her to the ocean and is just hanging around. I think they make up things because in the next episode, they're kind of chill with each other. So in episode 15, a member of the sorority, Junko, fails her exams due to health reasons, and Fukiko is furious. She doesn't care what the excuse is and orders the girl to hand in her resignation immediately. Nanako tries to defend the girl, but gets shut down both by Fukiko. Mariko starts panicking and starts encouraging Nanako to apologize to Fukiko by buying her a bouquet of red roses and whatnot because she doesn't want to end up on the bad side of Fukiko. But Nanako is like, what the fuck? Like, this whole sorority shit is bullshit. The Junko person getting kicked out of the sorority because of health reasons is bullshit. And why should I have to kiss Fukiko's ass? Well, she doesn't say that, but that's what she was really thinking, even though she's a sweetheart. Nanako kind of zones out Mariko. And later that night, Junko and Nanako meet up, and Junko's just showing her gratitude to Nanako for standing up for her because no one else did. Everyone else in the sorority kind of just pretended that she just doesn't matter and no one just talked. So she appreciates Nanako standing up for her. This leaves Nanako in a deep state of thought, and she starts really questioning, did she ever really enjoy the sorority life? Because all she's known so far of her high school life is constant taunting and bullying. Episode 16. Kaoru and Rei play basketball for a bit, and Mariko checks up on Kaoru, gifting her some sort of sports drink and running away. Kaoru has a big match, but she ends up getting hurt during the game. There's more cute interaction between Rei and Nanako. Their bond is getting stronger, and clearly, Nanako has strong feelings for Rei. Kaoru ends up getting injured during the basketball game, and Rei takes the injured Kaoru to the infirmary, and Kaoru requests Rei to fill in her spot, since they both used to be in the basketball team. While watching Rei play the game, Nanako is slowly starting to realize that she actually does have really strong feelings for Rei. She writes these feelings for Rei in her letter to Henmi, but that letter ends up with Fukiko after Nanako misplaces the letter. Fukiko is interested in the letter because it has Henmi's name on it, and assumes that Nanako is in a relationship with him and threatens her to cut her ties with Henmi right then and there. Nanako tries to explain that they're just pen pals, but Fukiko's got too much earwax built up in there and isn't listening to her at all. Right? Fukiko starts becoming more of a menace and starts controlling Rei even more. Shinobu ends up seeing the letter and freaks out when she sees a man's name on it and starts ranting to Nanako about her distrust in men. And here's her little rant.
絶対にダメ。あなたは知らないのよ。男っていうものがどんなに汚らしくて、おぞましくて、自分勝手でいやらしくて、凶暴で恥知らずだか。
Nanako misses her bus stop, like to stop to get off to go to school. And that's fine, because Rei is on this bus as well. And so the two kind of ditch school and go and have a little adventure. They're hanging around. It's cute. They almost get caught. Well, twice. Once, the first time, Nanako is in her school outfit, and she gets approached by a lady who's like, hey, shouldn't you be in school? What school do you go to? Give me your name. And before things can go sour, the lady mistakes Rei as a guy. Rei just openly and boldly starts smoking in front of her and gives off the illusion of an older man. And because this lady thinks that Nanako is being escorted by this older gentleman, that it's fine and just lets them off the hook. And so they go back to goofing off. But the second time they run into Henmi and Takeshi. Takeshi is actually Rei's older brother. So busted. Doesn't matter, Rei grabs Nanako's hand and they both run away to a cute little park, right? And underneath a tree near the lake-ish area, while staring at the clouds, the atmosphere is beautiful, the moment is nice, and Nanako musters up the courage and confesses to Rei her feelings for her. Episode 19. Rei refuses to respond to Nanako's confession, and as a matter of fact, continues to pretend that it didn't happen and grows some distance between the two of them. And it's harsh. It hurts because she just got rejected. This fucking sucks. She got rejected, and Nanako can't stand being alone at that time because she just feels like she needs company to keep her mind off, well, being rejected. Kaoru tries to reason with Nanako and tries to tell her, like, hey, Rei is a lost cause. I don't know why you were, just give up on her. She's trash. You will find someone better. Please give up on Rei. That's not exactly what Nanako wanted to hear. So just kind of bummed out even more after hearing Kaoru, discourage her from being with Rei. We learn a little bit more about Rei's family situation. The show wants to make it seem like it's wild and crazy, but it's not that wild. I think maybe for the times, 1970s was when this was made. Maybe back then for that soap opera, it was like, whoa, crazy, which I totally can see that. But nowadays, this kind of drama plot point is so common that for us, it might not seem that big of a deal. So I'll explain that a bit later. And as for Kaoru, we learned that she might be involved with Henmi somehow, which made me so upset because, like I said, I thought for a while up to this point that Kaoru and Mariko might end up being a thing, but that is crumbling apart. That's why I never did that with you guys. I didn't like hype up the interactions that Kaoru and Mariko had because I didn't want you guys to go through the same pain that I did. Episodes 20 to 21, the girls get to go to a university fair. But before that happens, Fukiko invites Nanako over for tea and sends Nanako to grab the special teacup in the storage room, right? Oh, conveniently in the storage room where she locks her in, hoping to make her late or not be able to attend the university fair at all. Why? Because Fukiko is in love with Henmi Takehiko, who she thinks is involved with Nanako, right? But they're just siblings. Fukiko's love for Henmi is just summer puppy love. 1 week's worth of interaction, and she's madly in love with this man. It's like one-sided love. But anyway, to kill some time, Nanako finds a vinyl player and she just starts listening to music all bummed out. Kaoru, who was at basketball practice and is wandering around school, happens to overhear the music and decides to investigate where the sound is coming from and finds Nanako. And yeah, after that, Nanako rushes to the university fair and calls Fukiko from a landline nearby and lets Fukiko know that, hey, by the way, I won't be able to make it to the tea party. I have to get to the university fair. Bye. And yeah, this makes Fukiko really mad because her sabotaging plan did not sabotage. At the university fair, Mariko is panicked. She's worried. She is paranoid that her friends are going to be influenced and corrupted by the men in the school. She was really, paranoid. She's overprotective of the girl, and she somehow manages, despite being the really protective one, she manages to get separated from the other three. So Henmi, Tomoko, and Nanako end up going their own way, and she ends up with a man, Takeshi. But don't worry about Mariko. She is too much of a hater and stubborn to fall for Takeshi, right? She is paranoid, and I don't really think it's irrational because one of the things that she's really paranoid really does happen to her, where two guys just keep hounding her because she loses track of Takeshi. She has to like break down crying and yelling for these dudes to like back off and stop harassing her. So yeah, that's what happens in those episodes. Momo, can you not like how do you get your cat to not eat your Christmas tree? Your fake Christmas tree cuz all she wants to do is nibble on the fake snow on it. And spraying water doesn't work on her. She just comes running back for more. Ugh. Fukiko invites Nanako and Mariko to her country villa for the weekend because her birthday's coming up and she needs as many freshmen as she can get her hands on to help her prep for the party. So she's having Mariko and Nanako hand out or write and mail out the invitations to her party. They get to also stay over the weekend at the place, and at nighttime, Nanako gets a little nosy. She follows Fukiko to a room in a part of the villa that no one is allowed. Fukiko notices that someone's outside the door and kind of opens the door and starts searching for who it is, right? Nanako is hiding, rightfully so, because Fukiko would be up your ass if she saw you. The very next day, she asks the maid about what's in that room and finds out that no one is allowed there and that it's Fukiko's old room from when she was 12 years old. Fukiko overhears the maid spilling the beans and has a Karen moment where she gets her fired immediately right on that spot. Like, Nanako tries defending the maid, but Fukiko is not listening. She's like, no, this bitch is fired. This person she's being a brat. Look at her. Look at the audience. She's too stupid. Get out of here. So, after the maid is fired,
いらっしゃい、ななこさん。
Nanako finds herself being yanked by the foot by Fukiko, who gets her leg trapped in a branch underwater, and Nanako is drowning. Fukiko almost kills her, but for some reason she changes her mind and I think she intended to just scare Nanako, not to actually kill her, but she saves Nanako, gets her out of the lake. She kind of just pretends that she doesn't even address it. She just says, I just wanted to go swimming with you. Obviously, the very next day, when school opens up, Nanako does not show up to school because who would after what Fukiko did? Fukiko and Rei attend Rei's mother's grave for her third death anniversary. They chat, it's intense as usual, and Rei finds herself being invited to Fukiko's birthday party. The party is huge, and there's many guests. Henmi is there as well. The sorority freshman girls are serving drinks and hors d'oeuvres. A flock of girls surround Rei, chanting, Saint Ju-sama, and request her to play for Fukiko's birthday. So she does. Unfortunately for Rei, this sucks for Rei. No matter what Rei does, it always triggers Fukiko. And in this case, the song that Rei chose to play for Fukiko triggers Fukiko, and Fukiko enters a frenzied rage state where she lashes out at Rei with a butter knife, cutting down the violin cords. She runs off upstairs after causing a scene and breaks down. What was the reason? I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to tell you right off the bat. Okay, here is some Fukiko and Rei lore. So, Fukiko, I already told you, had a little puppy love crush on Henmi. So, okay. One summer, when Fukiko was 12 years old and Henmi was 18, Takeshi invited Henmi over to their country villa to stay for a week. And during that 1 week, there were a lot of things that happened. Henmi showed a lot of kindness to Fukiko. He was kind of being more of a big brother, but she took it the wrong way and she kind of fell in love. Henmi promised at the end of that week of staying around that he would show up to their family party later. I don't know if it was in a month or so, but he was going to show up. He promised he would. But when the day came, right, an emergency came up and he couldn't make it. But Fukiko didn't know this. At the party that Henmi had promised to show up, Fukiko had played the song that Rei had played for Fukiko on the birthday, right? That triggered Fukiko. That was the song that she had played and made and rehearsed and practiced for Henmi. So it was her love song to Henmi, which Rei didn't realize. She's bitter that Rei was playing that very personal song that she made and dedicated for Henmi for her, which is dumb. because apparently the only reason Rei even knew about that song was because in her spare time, in Fukiko's spare time, and when she's alone, she always plays that song. So, Rei overheard it and was like, "Hey, that's her favorite song. I want to play it for her." So you can't blame Rei for that. Fukiko is just complicated for no reason. As for the family situation, between Fukiko and Rei. Well, spoilers, because this gets revealed a lot later, but we do not, by we, I mean me, I do not care. I will give it to you as it is, because I know you guys aren't going to go and watch this anime. Some of you probably clicked off this video because it isn't as wild as Peach Girl, but it's still out there. Fukiko isn't actually Rei's step sibling. She is Rei's biological older sister. So when Fukiko was born, um, she was immediately adopted into the main branch because her mom is the mistress. So Rei's mom and her mom, their biological mom, was the mistress of this hotshot family. When Fukiko, who she thought was her biological mother, when her mom was on her deathbed, she revealed to Fukiko that actually you're adopted. You were not my biological daughter, and your biological younger sister is actually Rei, which pissed off Fukiko. Fukiko was really upset because she felt as if her adoptive mother was being disrespected. She hated the fact that one, she was the daughter of a mistress. Two, she just wanted to take out the rage on somebody and she targeted Rei. Rei was still grieving her mom's loss because Rei's mom also died. So what Fukiko proposed to Rei was a double suicide. They went under a tree and it was a snowy day and Fukiko slashed Rei's wrist and let her bleed out. And obviously she had no intention of slitting her own wrist. Double suicide. Girl, what? No. She planned on just killing Rei because she was blaming Rei for a lot of the family drama. I think she starts staring at the blood oozing out of Rei and seeing Rei's body go cold and pale is when she starts kind of realizing, like, oh fuck, Rei is dying. And she changes her mind and she starts calling out for help. She picks up Rei. She helps up Rei and she starts calling out for help. The bitterness for Rei never disappeared from her heart, and she continued treating Rei like crap. Fukiko also lets Nanako into the sorority because she knew that Nanako was somehow connected to Henmi, and she wanted to use Nanako to get closer to Henmi. After the birthday episode, right? Fukiko invites Nanako over to the clubhouse late at night, where she puts on lipstick on Nanako and then lies about having feelings for for Nanako. It's such a ridiculous scene. It's so absurd. It comes out of nowhere. It's so silly, but basically Fukiko is trying to trick Nanako into forging some sort of feeling and bond for Fukiko so that she can give up on Henmi or I really don't know exactly how Fukiko was planning on using Nanako, but what we learn from their dialogue is that Fukiko was planning on seducing Nanako and using her to get to Henmi. But yeah, like there's like a point where shit gets so ridiculous where Fukiko starts kissing Nanako's ear before it gets more intense, I guess. Rei walks in dramatically and puts a stop to all of it. For a second, you think that Rei saves Nanako from Fukiko, but after Fukiko storms out of the room, Rei starts kissing the spot where Fukiko had kissed. Episodes 26 to 28, Nanako is like hellbent on quitting the sorority, and she even hands her resignation to Fukiko, but Fukiko just tosses it away and slaps Nanako because she's like, you ain't escaping from me, bitch. There's some more nonsense that happens, like later in the episode, Fukiko, cause Rei had stormed out of her apartment and she was just MIA. Fukiko follows her and finds her at top of a building, and somehow they get to a point where Fukiko wants to jump off the building with Rei, and as she's about to jump off, Rei pulls her away, like stops her from jumping. After that scene, Rei goes back to her apartment and is greeted by Nanako, who makes soup for her. When Nanako returns back home, um, late at night, Mariko shows up and during their sleep and asks to sleep over at their place. And they do. They let her sleep over. And at the sleepover, Mariko just breaks down crying. Well, the thing is, her parents are finally getting divorced. Her dad is hardcore cheating on the mom, right? There's a couple of episodes that focus on the immense amount of stress this divorce is having on her. She starts acting out in school and even slashes Misaki with a box cutter when provoked, with her usual shit talking, right? Except it was about Mariko's parents' divorce this time, which obviously triggered an extreme response from Mariko. She even tries to kill herself. It's just not good shit at all. She's not in a good mental space. She runs off after slashing Misaki and is around a bridge where Takashi finds her. The two spend the whole day together and he's just trying to, calm her down. I think her dad cheating on her mom and the divorce happening just made her more of a man hater. So I'm gonna speed run from episode 29 to episode 38 because there's a lot of things that happen, but they're not that big of a deal. But yeah. Mariko gets expelled from the sorority for her behavior, her slashing somebody with a box cutter, and Nanako leaves with her after defending her. Kaoru starts rallying other girls in the school against the sorority and wants to have it abolished. Also, around this time, we also figure out that possibly, maybe, I don't know, because they don't openly use the word cancer, but Kaoru might have breast cancer because her health starts declining even more. As the show inches closer to the ending, the club does get abolished, and the story shifts its main focus on Henmi and Kaoru. Basically, Kaoru was in a relationship with Henmi, and I think she was 15 and he was 18, but I'm not 100% sure on the age. Kaoru broke things up with him after she gets diagnosed, starts her treatment for breast cancer. I think her breasts get removed, and that's around the time when she's like, we're done. I can't be with you, because I'm not quite sure if it's because she's insecure or because she knows that she's running out of time. But either way, she decides to break things up with Henmi. Also, the current Kaoru is told by her healthcare provider that if her health declines within 4 to 5 years, she might die soon or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a healthcare professional. I don't know how all of that shit works. So pretty soon, Henmi decides that he wants to go to Germany to finish up university over there, and he hopes he can take Kaoru with him, which she doesn't really want to, but let's back up for now and get back to these two lovebirds. Rei opens up a lot to Nanako and shares all of the family drama and tea. The two pick a day and time, and well, it's a date. Both get dressed up. It's a beautiful sunny day. Nanako's got a cute dress on, and Rei's got a beautiful suit on. On her way to the station, she orders roses for Fukiko and has them delivered to her. And she also buys some flowers for her date, Nanako. As she's walking on the pass over, the flowers in her hand slip out due to the strong winds, and without even thinking, Rei jumps to grab her flowers for Nanako. And just like that, Rei's body gets slammed against the train that was going by, and there lies her body lifeless, leaving an unaware Nanako waiting at the station for her lover, Rei. I hated how this turned out, but this is 1970s girl love. Shit can't be 100% girl love, they gotta they gotta do something. They gotta kill off somebody, or they gotta turn somebody straight. So yeah, shit's whack and old. But anyway, when it starts getting late, Nanako makes her way to the station back and comes across Tomoko, who informs her of Rei's death. Nanako is in shock and runs to the hospital. She breaks down seeing her body. She refuses to believe that this is happening. To cope, she calls Rei's apartment, leaving voicemails, hoping they'd reach her. The whole school attends Rei's funeral, and later, overcome with grief, Nanako lights a cigarette that belonged to Rei that she had stolen and lights it up. Later, Fukiko confirms to Nanako that Rei definitely loved her. 2 weeks after Rei's death is when all the Kaoru drama starts. Nanako still visits Rei's old apartment that has been cleared out and has new residents. Around this time, these last few episodes, from episode 35 to 39, Nanako is just in a constant struggle bus, honestly. And no one gets her, not even her own mom. Her mom is like, wait till you fall in love or something, because they find out about Henmi and Kaoru, and it's like, oh, one day you'll fall in love too. And it's like, look at Nanako's expression. Takeshi is also in despair over his little sister's death. Fukiko misses Rei, but boo-hoo, she's dead, okay? When she was alive, you treated Rei like garbage. Like, why are you so sad now that she's not alive? Didn't you want her dead? Nanako climbs up the clock tower and finds Kaoru there. So Kaoru lets Nanako know about her cancer. After hearing this, Nanako clings on to Kaoru, sobbing uncontrollably. She can't lose another person close to her. While the two are hugging each other and Nanako is sobbing, Kaoru ends up unintentionally revealing to Nanako that Henmi is her actual brother. Kaoru had no idea that Nanako didn't know, especially since she already calls Henmi her brother and is already writing letters to him.
ってはいないけど、私はその息子を君を愛しているの。
So that clip that you just saw is so bullshit. I just hated the whole excuse Nanako's dad has for not visiting Henmi for 13 years. You did not go visit your son for 13 years, my guy. And I'm supposed to like somehow feel bad for you? I don't know. I know that Nanako has a really big heart and that she ends up forgiving her father for that, but that bullshit does not work on me, sir. Like, that's insane, okay? But anyway, by the last two episodes, 38 and 39, Nanako is able to get Kaoru thinking about making up with Henmi, which she does, and Henmi and Kaoru get married and eventually leave for Germany. I know, shit moves fast. I also wasn't expecting the two of them to get married before leaving, but Mariko's mom and her move out to a small apartment after her parents get divorced, and she's still fierce and happy and bright, and I love that for her. At the airport where Nanako's family is seeing Henmi and Kaoru off, Nanako randomly starts thinking back about Rei and thinks to herself about Rei's smell. So you remember at the beginning I told you to lock it in? Well, yeah. What does it mean to smell like a man? Nanako realizes that smelling like a man, what she really was smelling was the smell of cigarettes on Rei, because Rei was constantly smoking. There's a time skip to when Nanako is in university, and she's still writing letters to Henmi. And in one of those letters, we discover and learn that Kaoru and Henmi have just had a baby. And look at how domesticated Kaoru is. Yeah, we get to see that Nanako is kind of, she's continuing to mature, she's continuing to go on with life, and that maybe after all these years grieving for Rei, that she might have finally started moving on and is showing interest in someone else in school. So this is usually where I have the end discussion section, and I have nothing to discuss when it comes to Dear Brother. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.